It was a cold February morning in 1957 when the call came in. A small, quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Philadelphia had seen something that would haunt the city for decades. I was on duty that day, the weather biting through my jacket as I approached the scene. What I found there would stay with me forever. The discovery was made in a desolate area, overgrown with weeds and discarded trash. A large cardboard box, weathered by the elements, lay on the ground. At first glance, it seemed like someone had dumped old belongings. But as I approached, I saw the truth. Inside was the body of a young boy, barely 6 or 7 years old. His frail frame was covered with a blanket, and his pale skin had gone rigid in the cold. His hair was crudely cut, with uneven patches, as if someone had tried to disguise his appearance. He had bruises, though faded, across his body. He was so small, so fragile. But his face, it looked peaceful, almost as if he was asleep. We had no name, no identification. The only clue was the box itself, once used to carry a bassinet, manufactured in a nearby store. But it was a dead end. The boy was a ghost. No one knew him, no one claimed him. We had nothing to go on except for the mystery of his body and the haunting silence around his death. I began to gather every piece of evidence I could find. The blanket, a cheap and common kind, was no help. The boy's hair, cut unevenly, suggested someone in a hurry or someone who didn't care about how he looked. There were no fingerprints, no signs of who might have put him there. It was as if he had simply appeared. Days turned into weeks, and the press latched onto the story. The headlines called him the boy in the box. But despite the public outcry, no one came forward. It was as if the boy had never existed. His face, his small, innocent face, was printed in newspapers, shown on TV, but still, no one recognized him. I followed every lead, no matter how small. One tip led me to a local foster home, where children were said to have been abused. But after weeks of investigation, it turned out to be nothing more than rumors. Another lead suggested the boy was the victim of a traveling circus, abandoned by heartless parents. But again, it led nowhere. Frustration grew. This wasn't just a case, it was becoming an obsession. Every night I saw that boy's face, his lifeless body, lying in that cardboard box. Who could do this? And why would no one claim him? Then, after months of dead ends, I caught a break. A woman came forward, claiming to have information about the boy. Her name was Martha, and she was clearly troubled, jittery, as if she had been carrying a dark secret for years. She claimed that the boy had been purchased by her abusive mother, raised in secrecy, and beaten to death. According to her, he had been dumped in the box by her mother and herself in a moment of panic. For a brief moment, it seemed like the case might be solved. But Martha's story unraveled under scrutiny. Her mental health history made it difficult to determine what was fact and what was fiction. The details of her account didn't quite match the physical evidence. And once again, we were back at square one. 4 decades later, in the 2000s, technology reached into the past, exhuming the boy's fragile remains to extract DNA. But even science couldn't break the silence. No match, no family. Just a nameless child buried beneath a stone marked America's unknown child. I couldn't let him go. For years, I chased every lead, haunted by his frail body, abandoned in a cardboard box. The case consumed me, its unanswered questions a shadow I couldn't escape. And then, in 2019, his remains were exhumed again, and in December 2022, the call came. Joseph Augustus Zarelli. After 65 years, the boy in the box had a name. But names bring darker questions. Who were his parents, cloaked in secrecy? Why didn't they claim him? Knowing his name opened a door to something far more chilling. I'm still on the case, lost in the maze of his story, every step deeper into the unknown. Because now the mystery isn't just who he was, it's what happened to him, and the darkness that still lingers.